Hey, welcome to Barn Tech. Today I'm behind the barn with my 1997 Seadoo XP. This thing has been sitting up behind the barn for about a year, and it's been probably about 3 years since it's been on the lake. So I'm going to drag this thing out, clean it up, and see what it's going to take to get it running. All right, literally 4 minutes with the pressure washer, and you can see the difference here on the hood, the part that I washed and the part that I did not wash. So we'll come around to the back. Look at that seat. Well, as you can imagine, after sitting up for this long, the battery won't hold a charge. It was sitting at about 1.5 volts. I pulled it out and it looks like most of the cells are dry. So I got some distilled water I'm gonna put in the dry cells, get all of them back up to the fill line here. And then if I'm lucky, it'll be able to take a charge.
Well, that battery wouldn't take a charge. In fact, the sides of it bulged out, so this battery's done. I went ahead and pulled the battery out of one of my four-wheelers and stuck it in here. And let's see what it does. I got nothing.
All right, the other spark plug was dripping wet when I pulled it out. Actually, that one's bridged with gasoline too, so this thing's definitely flooded. The plugs smell like gasoline, so let's see what we got. Holy moly. Yeah, you think maybe it was flooded? Yeah, gasoline for sure. So let's pull the carburetors off, check them out, see if maybe one of the float needles is stuck. If we don't find anything obvious in the carburetors, we'll pull the rotary valve and see if that's timed properly. Got my new gasket in here. I'm going to check the pop off now, and I'm going to start by making sure that everything's wet in there. So I've got my air compressor turned down to 20 psi, and we're going to watch here. Before I put the new gasket in, I had a bunch of bubbles coming around the edge of that seal, so hopefully that's going to seal up now. Excellent. Okay, no bubbles coming out of the carburetor. I hear a little bit of air escaping from my nozzle here. But got the air compressor at 20 psi and it is not popping off. I'm going to turn it up a little bit and make sure it does pop off. There we go. This morning I was reading the Bible, and Paul said, "Therefore, as God's chosen people, holy and dearly loved, clothe yourselves with compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience." Now that's easier said than done sometimes. This jet ski, for instance, has taught me a lot about patience. Along the way, I have pulled the head off and inspected the cylinders. I've pulled the magneto, looked at the timing. I've pulled the carburetors numerous times. I've messed with the rotary valve timing. There's been a ton of things that I've tried along the way, and nothing has worked. But I think I finally found the issue, as you'll see in this video. Since this thing was spraying gasoline out of the spark plug holes and even a little bit out of the carburetors, I figured that something was wrong with the timing. And so I've pulled the carburetors off, also pulled off the intake, and I'm looking at the rotary valve. Let me get you in here so you can see what I see on the rotary valve. I've got the magneto side piston at top dead center right now, so this should be uncovered. So we're gonna set up and do the timing wheel again. All right, so we'll just align that with the bottom of the port there. Try not to knock it on the way out. And we'll see where the mark is in there. See if I've already got that marked. All right, looks like I already had a mark down there on the crankcase where that first timing needs to be. So I'm gonna move now to the closing mark, and just rotating my homemade degree wheel here until the 0 degree mark gets to where the valve closes. And I can see there's already a Sharpie mark on the crankcase where the -64 belongs. So I've already got the marks on the crankcase from last time. We're going to go ahead real quick and make sure that the magneto side piston is at top dead center. Okay, magneto piston's at top dead center. So I'm going to go ahead and pull this homemade degree wheel out of there and put the real rotary valve back in place. This will align with the first mark that I made, and this will align with the last mark that I made. I think I just figured out why my jet ski's running bad. You see these bubbles? Well, I was sucking air bubbles from the fuel tank, and so I decided to try this lawnmower fuel tank on it. Cranked up, ran great. So that confirms I've got some issues with the fuel lines going back to the fuel tank. Unfortunately, to get the fuel tank out to get to those, I have to pull the engine out. It only takes about an hour to pull the engine out. So got the engine out now. I'm siphoning gas out of the tank, and we'll get the tank out here in a bit and look at the fuel pickup, make sure everything's good, get it put all back together again. Got my fuel siphoning through this clear tube into the gas tank here. But as you can see, it's flowing out clear now. There's no bubbles in it. Well, I idled it up a little bit, and I think it's running pretty good now. So next step to take it to the lake. Obviously too dark to do that tonight, so we'll have to wait till tomorrow. All right, here we go. This thing hadn't been on the lake in about 3 years, and it didn't run good for about 2 years before that. So let's crank it up and see how she does. Well, that's exciting. This thing started up way easier than I thought it would. Runs like a scalded ape. So for the first time to the lake in 3 years, that's pretty awesome. So hey, if you've enjoyed my video, why don't you click the subscribe button? Otherwise, God bless. We'll see you next time.